Some betrayals don't crash in like storms. They drift in like quiet fog, soft at first, until you realize you can't see the road back. This story is one of those. It began not with an argument, but with a single missing seat, an empty space at a table meant for 12. That quiet omission would unravel an empire and awaken a woman named Imani Wells. The rooftop of the Eden House shimmered above Chicago's downtown skyline that evening. Below, traffic pulsed in rhythm. Above, glass walls caught the sunset in gold and crimson. Inside, 12 elegant chairs surrounded a table glowing with candlelight. Every detail, from the monogrammed menus to the imported orchids, had been planned by Imani herself. Her deep sapphire gown swept the marble as she stepped out of the elevator, her back straight, her smile deliberate. She had curated this event for weeks, arranging floral shipments from New Orleans, negotiating a 7-course menu with a celebrity chef, and ensuring the lighting dimmed just as the skyline came alive. But then she saw it. 12 settings. Not 13. No name card. No seat for her. Across the table, Preston Wells, her husband of 7 years, looked up from his glass and smirked. "Oh," he said, feigning surprise. "Guess we miscounted." A few chuckles fluttered around the table, the kind of laughter that hides cruelty behind etiquette. Imani inhaled slowly, her voice calm when she replied, "It seems I was never really counted to begin with." She turned and walked out, her heels striking marble like punctuation marks. The servers froze, unsure whether to move. The chandeliers flickered. Preston's light laugh followed her out, sharp as broken glass. 30 minutes later, the illusion began to crack. The restaurant manager rushed into the terrace, face pale. Waiters whispered in confusion. Guests exchanged puzzled glances. Across the street, in a quiet cafe window, Imani stirred her espresso and watched their reflection in the glass. Her lips curved faintly. She wasn't angry anymore. The time for tears had passed months ago. This was the beginning. Imani had built everything from nothing. Her father owned a small flower stand on Chicago's South Side. Her mother worked nights as a nurse. From them, she learned grace under pressure and the art of turning scarcity into beauty. By her mid-20s, she had launched Solara Events, a boutique planning company that transformed even the simplest spaces into moments people never forgot. Her reputation spread fast among the city's elite. "If Solara's running it, it'll be perfect," people whispered. That was how she met Preston, at a charity gala she had designed from scratch. He was polished, powerful, and persuasive. Their attraction was instant, their partnership magnetic, and for a while it seemed like love. But under the shimmer, something darker had begun to form, the kind of rot that hides beneath marble until one day, the cracks can no longer stay hidden. Before the Eden House dinner, Imani had ignored the whispers, the tight smiles, and the subtle exclusions that came dressed as politeness. She had convinced herself she belonged, until the night they proved she didn't. The truth was, Preston Wells came from old money, the kind that wore history like perfume. His parents, Reginald and Clarice Wells, ran Wells Equity, a Chicago investment firm that looked more like an empire than a business. They collected people the way others collected art, carefully, selectively, and only when it enhanced their image. Imani, despite her success, was never supposed to be part of that collection. She remembered the first time she met Clarice. The woman's mansion gleamed like a museum, filled with oil paintings and cold smiles. Clarice studied her over a teacup and said, "You're talented, dear. It's just rare to see someone self-made mingle so effortlessly." Imani had smiled back. "I learned early that grace doesn't need inheritance." Clarice's reply had been a polite nod, the kind that ended conversations and began judgments. Still, Imani believed love could outshine lineage. She built her marriage with patience, compromise, and endless effort. When Preston forgot anniversaries, she forgave. When his tone sharpened in public, she softened hers. When he began spending more nights at work, she didn't question it, not yet. The cracks began to show when she planned Clarice's 70th birthday celebration. It was meant to be her masterpiece, A 4-day affair spanning the Wells private villa in Savannah, an exclusive yacht dinner along the Georgia coast, and a gala at the Eden House rooftop finale. Every detail sparkled with perfection, until the inconsistencies started. Invoices missing her name. A head count quietly changed from 13 to 12. Vendors suddenly taking new instructions from Mrs. Wells Sr. And then came the text message. Preston was in the shower when his phone lit up on the counter. Imani didn't usually pry. She hated the idea of suspicion. But that night, something in her stilled her hand before it moved. She unlocked it. The name on the screen read, Sabrina L. Can't wait to see you in Savannah. Does she know yet? Imani's stomach turned. She scrolled. Messages, months old, full of secrets. Hotel receipts. Private dinners. Pictures of a woman with long braids and a hand on her belly. Pregnancy announcement. For months along. Imani's reflection blurred in the bathroom mirror. Her heartbeat slowed until it was almost calm. She screenshot everything, sent the evidence to herself, deleted the thread, and exhaled. When Preston came out, towel slung low, he smiled like nothing was wrong. You okay, baby? He smiled back. Just reviewing the event schedule. And that was the moment something in her changed. She didn't confront him. She didn't break. He planned. Because Imani Wells was not the kind of woman who screamed. She was the kind who built storms that looked like silence, until they hit. The morning of the Wells family gala began like any other. At least, that's how it looked from the outside. The skyline was crisp, the lake shimmered in soft gold, and the Eden House buzzed with final preparations. But beneath the perfection, something precise and devastating was already in motion. Imani had spent the entire week laying quiet groundwork. She had built her company, Solara Events, on trust and discretion, traits her clients never questioned. That same trust gave her control over every booking, every vendor, every account tied to the Wells celebration. The day before the event, she overheard Clarice in the hotel lobby. Her voice smooth as glass. There'll be 12 seats, not 13, Clarice said into her phone. No, she won't be staying for dinner. It's been decided. Imani stood in the hallway, invisible behind a marble column, her heart steady. There it was, confirmation that her erasure wasn't an oversight. It was policy. That night, she returned to her suite, opened her laptop, and logged into Solara's secure system. Her fingers flew across the keys. Cancel yacht service. Revoke the villa reservation. Withdraw catering deposits. Redirect all payments to Solara's business account. By the time the sun rose, every part of the Wells' extravagant week was unraveling. Quietly, legally, irreversibly. She arrived at the Eden House an hour early. Her black silk gown draped like command. The staff greeted her with cautious smiles. They could sense a shift in the air. Everything's ready, Mrs. Wells, the restaurant manager said. Imani nodded. Perfect. But one last note. If anyone asks who paid for tonight's event, tell them the account closes at midnight. He blinked, unsure what she meant, but obeyed. She turned toward the terrace and exhaled. Let the curtain rise, she whispered. The rooftop glowed like a jewel in the night. Lanterns floated overhead, casting warm halos across crystal glasses. The city below sparkled, indifferent and eternal. Clarice sat at the head of the table, draped in gold. Preston sat beside her, smiling that same hollow smile he wore at every public event. And then there was Sabrina, glowing, seated directly to his left. Her hand brushed her small baby bump as she laughed at something Clarice said. Imani stood behind the frosted glass divider near the wine cellar, unseen, watching her masterpiece unfold. Every flicker of candlelight, every glint of glass felt like punctuation at the end of a long, painful chapter. Then, at exactly 8:07 p.m., the first crack appeared. The restaurant manager approached the table, tablet in hand, his voice careful. Mr. Wells, I'm afraid there's an issue with the payment authorization for tonight's event. Preston frowned. Run it again. We've tried 3 times, sir. The account has been closed. Clarice waved a dismissive hand. Handle it quietly. But nothing stayed quiet. The servers froze. The hum of conversation faltered. Guests looked up, murmuring. Preston's phone buzzed. Then again. 3 messages in a row. He glanced down, and his face drained of color. Enjoy your dinner, Preston. May every bite taste like the betrayal you served me. All accounts were under Solara events. As of now, they no longer exist. Tonight I become unforgettable. A hush swept across the terrace. And then she stepped into the light. Imani's presence cut through the air like thunder without sound. Her gown shimmered, her posture regal. Problem with the bill? She asked softly. Preston shot up. Where the hell have you been? She ignored him. For the record, she said to the manager, every reservation, contract and payment for this evening was managed by my company. As of 8 o'clock, I revoked authorization. Sabrina rose from her chair, panic flashing across her face. You can't just. I already did, Imani said, her tone calm, devastating. Clarice's voice trembled with fury. You ungrateful woman. No, Imani interrupted. Just precise. You set a table for 12. Now you'll get exactly what 12 paid for. And with that, she turned and walked away as chaos bloomed behind her like wildfire in silk and gold. By sunrise, Imani Wells was already gone. Her flight left Chicago before the city even woke. Through the airplane window, the clouds stretched like a blank page, and she decided that was exactly what her life would become. Blank, open, hers again. The night before, as she walked away from the burning elegance of the Eden house, she hadn't looked back once. She didn't need to. She knew exactly what she'd left behind. Pride, power, and people who mistook cruelty for class. In the days that followed, the Wells empire began to crumble. The headlines came first. Wells equity under review for financial irregularities. Anonymous tip triggers Sissy inquiry into family holdings. Imani didn't leak the documents, though she could have. She'd discovered enough while managing their accounts to end them twice over. No, the leak came from somewhere closer. A restless cousin, an overworked accountant, maybe even a disillusioned assistant. It didn't matter. The result was the same. The dynasty that once erased her was now erasing itself. Preston tried to reach her within a week. He showed up unannounced at her new apartment. A bright, minimalist loft overlooking Lake Michigan, sunlight spilling across floors she'd cleaned herself. He looked smaller somehow, like success had been ironed out of him. Imani, please, he said, voice cracked from sleepless nights. We're falling apart. You have to help me fix this. She stepped aside and let him in. He paced like a caged man, rambling about frozen accounts, investors pulling out, his father's minor stroke, his mother's breakdown. You did this, he accused finally, desperation edging his voice. She looked at him calmly. No, Preston. You did this. I just stopped protecting you from the truth. He sank into her couch, face in his hands. I still love you, he murmured. She smiled, not cruelly, but with the tired grace of someone who'd already buried that part of herself. You loved what I built around you, she said quietly. Not me. He lifted his head, eyes red. Sign the non-disclosure, please. If this goes public, we lose everything. Can pay you. Houses, money, whatever you want. Imani stood. Her posture was still, her tone unshakable. You think I want payment for my pain. You still don't get it. I didn't do this for revenge, Preston. I did it to breathe. She walked him to the door. And next time, she added softly, hire a lawyer who doesn't email confidential drafts in plain text. When the door closed, she leaned her back against it and exhaled for what felt like the first time in years. The next morning, she poured herself coffee, opened her curtains, and smiled at the sight of the sun rising over a lake that didn't judge her. Her phone buzzed. Messages from clients she'd once turned down, journalists requesting interviews, and investors offering partnerships. But she ignored them all. For the first time, she had nothing to prove and no one to impress. The Wells name was collapsing under its own arrogance, but Imani Wells, the woman they tried to erase, was just getting started. Summer sunlight spilled over Capri Bay, washing the marble terrace in gold. The sea below glittered like liquid glass, and the sound of waves brushed against the horizon with lazy rhythm. Imani stood barefoot, tablet in hand, her curls pulled back and her skin glowing under the Mediterranean sun. Around her, a small army of designers and florists moved with quiet precision, preparing for the wedding of a world-famous R&B artist. Her company, Solara Global, had expanded across continents: Montego Bay, Dubai, Paris, Lagos. Every event bore her signature: elegance, secrecy, and soul. No chaos, no scandal, just beauty built from wisdom and control. "Miss Wells," her assistant called, approaching with a tablet. "A request came in this morning from a Clarice Wells. She says it's urgent. Wants to hire you for a private fundraiser." Imani paused, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled faintly. "Decline politely. Permanently." The assistant nodded and walked away. Imani turned back to the view, the wide, endless water, the light catching on its ripples. She had learned something most people never do. Peace doesn't roar, it hums. That evening, she sat beneath strings of fairy lights, a lemon spritz in hand, soft jazz rising from a nearby balcony. Her planner lay open beside her, a single note written for the month ahead. Best. Her phone buzzed again. New clients from Monaco, another from Tokyo, all eager to book Solara months in advance. She smiled, closed the laptop, and let the night breathe. She no longer chased validation. She no longer needed to belong to someone else's table. The missing chair, the one that once defined her humiliation, had become her monument. It reminded her that erasure can be an invitation, to rebuild, to rise, to sit alone if you must, but on your own throne. She took one last sip, watching the moon shimmer over the sea, and whispered to herself, "They tried to uninvite me. I just built my own table." And somewhere in Chicago, behind iron gates and fading grandeur, the Wells family's lights flickered out, while across an ocean, Imani Wells's name lit up the skyline. The woman they erased had become unforgettable.